Hey guys, good morning. You will see this in the morning. I'm pre-recording it. This is Elsie. This is my new bear, who I'm going to talk about in a minute. I hope you can hear me. I feel like I'm yelling a little bit, but that's okay, because my ears actually are still a little stuffed up from having COVID. So you may have noticed I did not write a newsletter on Thursday at all. I forgot. I've had a lot on my mind, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit. Well, first, I had COVID, so I didn't have a lot of energy, and I guess I didn't have anything to write or say at the time. By the way, sure, you can see my cat there. I don't know if she'll stay there the whole time. So I've been planning this trolley ride, and it's not been overly fun to plan it, especially while I had COVID and did not have a lot of energy. And I also felt like I was begging people to come on this trolley ride, which I thought would be really fun. And it's funny, a lot of my Vermont friends were like, oh, I wish I was down there. I would come on it. I'm like, I wish you were down here too. Yeah, so it's just it's not been the experience I thought it would be. And then I asked for help from probably a couple friends, one of whom I knew was not going to be here. And so she helped me out with some supplies and left them with me when she left. But then another friend was going to also help me, and her and her husband were gonna be two bodies on the trolley, which I need bodies. And I got an email from her this morning that she left already for a trip that she wasn't gonna leave for until Monday. And so everything I was counting on from her, I now have to go get myself or do myself. And it's like two fewer people who are going to be on the trolley. And yeah, so I was also kind of, counting on her for moral support. And so all of that is gone now. And, she left early for a good reason, but yeah. So I feel pretty dejected this morning with that news, and I feel like canceling the whole thing because it's just been a lot of work. And yeah, it's definitely a different world than it was like 10, 20 years ago when I was doing this kind of stuff. I guess there's just so much going on that nobody seems to care, I guess, what I'm doing. Yeah, I'm not sure what to think about that, but it is what it is. I just it's all a lot of work for me, and I'm like, why am I doing this? Nobody even seems that interested, so why am I even doing this? So yeah, I feel super bummed this morning, and it's like now I have to go get a bunch of other stuff, and it's tomorrow. The trolley ride is tomorrow, which is why I'm making this video today. But so this teddy bear, it's kind of a long story, but I did well, actually, my ex, who is now my friend, did a couple different videos where he promoted 5,000 hugs, and one of his commenters kind of shit talked it a little bit, and so Paul got on his case, and then the guy's been sending Paul weird random things in the mail that he opens up on video, and so he said he was going to send something for me. So we did a whole unboxing of all this stuff that he had gotten the other night, and this was what the guy sent to apologize to me. It's a little teddy bear that says, "Hug me." So I'm hugging it because it wants to be hugged. And so that was nice. That was sweet. Yeah, I had a good week this week, other than just all of this stress from this trolley ride that was supposed to be fun for me too, and it has just felt like a lot of work and a lot of like no one cares, and yeah, so I'm like this close to just canceling it. There's most of the people signed up for the noon to 4 session. So I could cancel the other session. I'd have to send out an email like right now or contact people individually. There's only a couple people signed up for that one. So I'm trying to decide what to do. Yeah, I feel disappointed that I did all this work, that like I just, bought a bunch of stuff and was planning it and was trying to make it fun, and the reception was not better. And I don't think it's anything I did. I just think, again, there's a lot going on, a lot of events, whatever. People are distracted. People are trying not to do too much anymore. You know, the go, go, go mentality. Maybe people aren't, they don't want to go, go, go anymore. I don't know. But yeah, so I have to make some decisions. And, even just getting all of this stuff onto the trolley, I'm going to have to drive over there. I have a huge cooler I have to get ice for, and then drive it all over there. Maybe get someone to help me do that. And, yeah. Still tired from COVID, too. So yeah, I feel very unmotivated right now. I think I felt that way before COVID. Just, in my work, I don't have any new projects lined up. I'm still finishing up a couple projects, but I don't have anything new lined up. I'm still doing work to promote 5,000 hugs, and it's going slow. People do keep buying hugs, but definitely not at the rate that I need them to if I want this project to be successful. But I truly appreciate everyone who has bought one. You're amazing. Thank you for your support. Yeah. So I think people are starting to see my vision, maybe, and hopefully that will multiply. But other than that, whatever happens, I will be glad when this trolley ride is over. because it's kind of taken over my apartment and my life. So yeah, I did start telling another part, I should say, of my life story while I had COVID. So I might pull that out and add that to this video. I think I'm coughing a bit in it and a little like spacey, so I might have been all over the place. I'll check it out. There was something I was going to tell you guys about compassion. Maybe I will do that right now. Okay, so just a little interjection here. I'm mostly done with COVID now. So I made that first video. I was still kind of sick with COVID. The trolley ride I did cancel. It never happened. And that was actually a relief. I will say that Paul could see I was struggling and he had already offered to take some video for me during the trolley ride that I could use for promotion. But then he saw me struggling because my friend had left town, and so he offered to come over and help me load up the trolley and be my cheerleader and just be totally wonderful. And then I did end up canceling it, so he didn't have to do that. So that's all in the past. And now I am going to play the video that I made while I still was deep in COVID, talking about my 20s. And then after that, I'll come back and sort of tell the rest of the story, like about compassion and what happened recently that, sparked my compassion. Good morning, everybody. It's Elsie Gilmore. It's Sunday morning, the 11th. Oh, today's September 11th. So that's something we can meditate on for sure. I hope I'm talking loud enough. I feel like I'm not talking as loud while I have COVID, as you may know, but I will try to talk loud enough. So, today's Sunday, and I have had, last week was quite a week. So I think it started off with someone hacking into my debit card. And so I got a text from my bank that said, we need you to call us because we have to verify some transactions. And of course, this happens like once a year now. I don't know how people get my debit card. I haven't gotten gas in a while. Apparently they sometimes get it when you get gas. But like the last purchase I had made was from B&H Photo, and I don't know how anyone would have stolen my card from that. So I think it was B&H Photo. Anyway, I had gone to a couple of restaurants. Anyway, every time this happens, they have to cancel my card because now somebody has the information and send me a new one. So I'm pretty sure maybe it was Tuesday that it got canceled, and I still don't have a new one. So thankfully, some of the things I buy online, I can just put in my bank information, like my bank account information. And then I also have a credit card. So I don't like to use the credit card, but I've used it a couple times just because I had to. So that was fun. I was like, yay, I can't use my debit card for my main bank account. Woohoo! So then also on Tuesday morning, I had a sore throat on Monday. You can tell my voice is still screwed up. I had a sore throat on Monday, but I thought maybe it was just, right now, it's just air conditioning all the time. It's so hot here, and I get really dried out, from that. So, but by Tuesday, I was like, okay, maybe this is something. And so I tested myself Tuesday morning and had COVID. And this is the very first time I've had COVID during the entire pandemic. So it's been mostly like a bad cold, except I did have a fever for a couple days that I had to keep down with Tylenol. So I haven't seen anybody since Monday. I actually had coffee with someone on Monday. Fortunately, that person did not get COVID. They kept testing and have not had COVID. So I'm really happy about that. And now I feel kind of like invincible for the next 4 to 6 months, because now I know I'm going to have an immunity. Although, I don't know, some people get it again within that time, right? I don't know. Anyway, I'm just happy that I got this version of it and that it hasn't been too bad. I did have some coughing, which sucked. And weirdly, last night, I felt like I was going to sleep really well because a lot of my symptoms were, diminished. But I took NyQuil and still I was coughing in the night. Last night was really the first night I coughed or had to blow my nose after I went to bed. So that kind of sucked. Eventually it calmed down. But yeah, so I've just been dealing with that and kind of low energy and not a lot of motivation this week. I did get some things done for work, and I did some things for the 5,000 Hugs project. So I wasn't completely, I didn't sleep the whole time. Like some people are just really exhausted and they just sleep the whole time. So it wasn't like that, which was nice. I did some extra resting, but nothing crazy. So yeah, so that was part of my week last week. And then something else happened too, which, I'm kind of still processing, but I'm gonna jump back into my sort of who I am, sort of history story for a minute before I get to that. So I dropped out of college when I was 17. And, I went into the workforce, which was pretty terrible where I lived. But I will say this, how it ended up being okay. I did work at McDonald's as a closer. I worked at a grocery store in the fish department. I worked at Kmart during layaway season. But when I was 16, I can't even remember. When I was a senior in high school. So when you're a senior, you could go to this vocational school for part of the day, or you could get an internship. I apologize if I'm coughing. I hope I'm not talking too long and it's just going to be a cough fest. We'll see. So, fun. So some teacher must have helped me. I don't know. Because I was smart. So I ended up getting an internship at the electric utility company, which was probably one of the best places to work in the city next to me. And it was cool. I mean, I was just doing administrative stuff, right? I was 16 or 17. And, but I moved around to different departments in the company, which was really interesting. And then I I'm trying to remember what happened when I graduated. I don't think there was like a job for me. But several years later, I did end up getting a job there. And it was actually a pretty good one. And my boss was a woman, which was very cool. I liked that. So she was in charge of a department, and I worked in that department. And I met some really awesome people. And the company changed a lot and I stopped working there, but that was like pretty impressive for somebody my age where I was. So yeah, I'm trying not to make this is kind of like the story of my 20s. I'm trying not to make it too long. There's lots of stories I can come back to, but I was in a relationship then that was really bad. I mean, it was between when I was 17 to 21. It was just on again, off again, so much drama. Like, I didn't have any emotional skills. Okay. I left my house. I moved out of living with my father at 17. I had no emotional skills. Like, I was fully unequipped to be in a relationship, to be out in the world, to even be in the workplace. Like, but that, I was working with what I had, and what was I going to do? So my 20s was a lot of not knowing what I didn't know, right? I probably assumed, since a lot of the relationships around me were also dramatic, that that's just the way relationships were. That was normal, whatever, it wasn't fun. Like, it didn't feel good, but I just assumed like this is what it is, And especially as the woman, you just like, you just got to plow through it. You just tolerate it or whatever. So I just didn't have a lot of good examples around me. So I got out of that relationship when I was 21, and very shortly I met the next partner who, not even for my town, he was very sophisticated compared to me. Okay, I was like a country bumpkin, and even though I thought I was smart, I was only smart compared to the other country bumpkins, So I met this guy, and he was very like, he was very good looking. Okay. And he was very charming, but he had something to back it up. He was like Bill Clinton charming. Like, I'm charming. I'm also like brilliant and talented and, good looking and all this stuff. And so this guy kind of, was this whole glamorous package for me. And he liked really cool music. Like, I was not cool. Okay. Like in high school, I was the opposite of cool. I mean, people might have thought I was cool because I was so weird. And like, I would wear weird clothes, like, because I would go shopping down in Queens, Long Island, with my mom, and there would be all these weird like jeans with like a brick pattern that were cropped with a zipper. And like, I'm going to tell you right now, one of the saddest things in my life is that I have no photos of me wearing some of these weird, cool, just like really avant-garde even clothes that I wore to high school. Anyway, so if anybody thought I was cool, it was because I was weird and like didn't care. So, which is funny because when I look back, I feel like I probably did care a lot, but I still took all these weird fashion and social chances. So, okay, so I met this guy, this new guy who was very, very exciting for me. And he, like I said, he liked cool music. And I'm like, oh my God, this is such great music. Like, He's probably the only reason I was listening to like Pearl Jam and Rage Against the Machine in the 90s, okay? And then I started liking all the cool 80s music that I never knew about because I was so uncool. So, I mean, I'll just use his name. His name is Ian. So, he also was, so his parents were professionals, which I knew some people whose parents were professionals, but, you know, his dad was an attorney and his mom was on the board of on the public utility board, and they were both intellectuals. I'm not sure I knew anybody whose parents were like intellectuals, but maybe. So he was an intellectual, and he, you know, fancied himself a writer, but he was very bohemian, and he wasn't, but his parents weren't at his age either, but he wasn't the most like motivated person, you know, when I met him, for sure. And a lot of the time I dated him. But I found his book collection and I devoured it. I was reading Kafka and Dostoevsky, and I'm like, this shit is cool. So I definitely got a lot out of that relationship, just with his music and literature, you know, likes. So, but the thing about Ian was that even though he grew up solidly like upper middle class, okay, with anything he could have wanted, he was an angry person, and not like abusive angry, although, I mean, you can argue, but he just like had some kind of chip on his shoulder, and you're like, why? I don't understand why an upper middle class white guy, you know, has a chip on his shoulder. But he just always did, and he was a poor loser. He was the worst loser I've ever met. Like, if him and I were playing like a board game together or whatever, and he felt like he was not going to win, he would just throw the game. I'm like, you're such a douche. So, stuff like that. And like, he would throw things, but not at you, but he would throw things, which is, you know, very aggressive. And I will say one time, so we had ordered pizza from a place in our hometown, and this guy that he hated, I don't even remember why he hated him. This guy that he hated worked there. And when one of our friends delivered the pizza, that friend, who clearly is not a good friend, told Ian that kid made the pizza. So Ian gets furious. There was 2 pizzas. Ian gets furious, and he's like, I'm not going to eat the pizza. And I'm just like, oh my God, you're such a baby. So I was really pissed. So I took the pizzas and I was going to leave, and I'm like, well, I'll take the pizzas then, and I'll go somewhere else and find some other people to eat them with. So I take the pizzas, and there's a back hallway at the back of our apartment. So you basically go out a door, there's a hallway, you go down it, and then you go out the back door. Well, in order to do that, you have to kind of go out the door. You have to kind of get behind the door to close the door. So I'm out there, and Ian thinks I'm already out on the porch. He kicks the door in to be dramatic, not knowing that I'm standing right behind it, and the doorknob impaled itself into my thigh. And I literally crumple to the ground, to the floor, holding these pizzas. Now, Ian, when he kicked the door open, he thought there was going to be a loud bang when the door handle hit the wall. But when there was no bang, he's like, oh shit. And he comes out, and he did not mean to do that. He was very mortified that that happened, but it was still his fault. He still was trying to be a dick, by doing that. So, but he had to look at that huge, black, ugly bruise on my thigh for like, a month. So anyway, it's just that kind of stuff. He's not trying to hurt anybody, but he's just being a dick, So eventually I got sick of that. And our relationship was tumultuous, in many ways. There was some great parts of it, but a lot of it was just two people in their 20s not knowing what the hell they're doing, So eventually I did break up with him because I just didn't want that kind of energy in my life. And again, he was never like abusive, or like people used to think he was, just because of the way he acted. They were like, oh, poor Elsie. I'm like, whatever, it's not like that. I mean, I definitely don't like that attitude of his, but he's not like, physically abusing me or whatever. So after that, I talked earlier about overcorrecting. And so I did, not really overcorrecting, but the next person I ended up with was the least, like, not masculine, but just like, was a very gentle, more on the feminine side, person who was not aggressive at all, who was just very peaceful and artsy, and just a calm person. Okay, so I met him, I don't know how many months after Ian and I broke up, and he was just really, where I was from, it was like, you need to find a nice guy. I'm like, okay, well, that's, what does that mean? There's been these arguments like, it's not enough just to be nice. Nice is what everybody should be. So there's so many different levels of nice, like you also, for me, especially because of the way my mind works, like I need you to also be interesting, and well-read and all this other stuff. So it's not enough just to be nice. But this man was incredibly kind and gentle, and just, everyone who knows him loves him, because he's just such a kind, nice person. So we got together and we actually got married. And I'm a nice person too, obviously. There's a lot, I'm much more complex than that though. I'm not just a nice person. So we were happy for a short while, but so here's the underlying theme of my 20s, is that I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy because I didn't know what happiness was. No one ever told me how to be happy. And a lot of the people around me did not seem happy. And so I don't even think I knew what happiness was, or contentedness. I didn't know how to do that. And by the end of my 20s, which was when I was married, I could be distracted for a while by getting married and moving in with someone and starting something new. But then after that settled, again, I was like, I'm not happy. Why am I not happy? I even went to a therapist and I said, I'm married to this really amazing guy. Why am I not happy? Why don't I want to be married to him anymore? What's wrong with me? And really looking back, what was wrong with me was that I was looking for happiness out there. And you'll never find happiness out there, because that's not where it is. But I kept looking for it out there. I kept looking for it in other people, right? why doesn't this man make me happy, right? Which is not how you're supposed to look at relationships. So I really struggled at the end of my 20s, and I did some shitty things. I acted in shitty ways, trying to find this happiness. And most of my 20s, I drank a lot. And I wasn't the only one. I mean, everyone in my hometown did, probably because they just felt the same way I did. If I can't find happiness, I can forget about it for, a few hours a day. And I really did drink like daily. Okay. And I'm just thankful that when I decided I didn't want to drink anymore, I didn't have to. But I drank a lot and I made poor decisions, which you do if you drink a lot. And the drinking a lot was also a poor decision. So at the end of my 20s, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm unhappy. There's pain in my life. Some of it I cause, and I don't know why. And so I'm just I eventually moved back in with my father because I had so much pain. I was causing pain in my marriage. And so I moved back in with my father, and an opportunity came up. Well, so I was basically single at that point. And a friend of mine, I'll tell this story because it's kind of good. One of my best friends from high school, he had started a company wherein he traveled around the world teaching this software that him and his partner had developed to companies around the world. So he had just come back from Sweden, and in one of his classes was this guy from Norway. And I have to say his name because it's funny. I always just call him by his full name. His name was Erling Hesselberg. Okay. And he looked like a tall, stunning Viking. Okay. And my friend was in love with him. Okay. The problem was that Erling Hesselberg was not gay. So my friend gave me his information because Erling Hesselberg was looking for an American girlfriend so he could improve his English, or whatever that means. I don't know. So I sent him an email, and he sent me back some photos of him. So he actually he's from Norway. And one of the photos, so I am this country bumpkin from Vermont. I've left the country like one time when I was 15 to go on the Spanish trip to Mexico. But other than that, I've been to New York City, but I'm very insulated. I've lived a very insulated life. And although I will say it was around that time that the internet came about. But I think, yeah. So, but I was really a country bumpkin, never really been anywhere, and mostly spent all my time around other white Americans. Okay. So Erling Hesselberg sent me some photos, and one of them was a picture of him sitting on a piece of stone rubble with the Colosseum behind him. And I looked at that photo and I said, I want a photo of me in front of the Colosseum. Like, how cool is that? I had never even thought about that before. So we start emailing and we're really getting along, and he's like, yeah, if you came and visited me, we could just fly to Rome for a weekend. I'm like, yes, that sounds amazing. Yes, I want to do that. So I was talking to my friend about it, and he's like, yeah, I could sell you some of my points, because he flew all the time, so he had all these points. And he's kind of stingy, so he's like, not give them to you. I can sell them to you, which is fine. I love him. So, I'm really getting into this, like, holy crap, I'm going to go to Norway. And then Erling Hesselberg got back together with his ex-girlfriend. And I'm like, what? So suddenly all of these dreams are like circling the toilet. So I'm talking to my friend, and he's like, you should just go anyway. You should just go to Europe anyway. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go to Europe by myself. Anyway, I was 29, so it's not like I was a kid, but again, it was, that was a pretty big thing. So, and my family, again, I'd been on the internet and stuff, so I could research like all of this stuff, and I could see where other people had traveled Europe with a backpack by themselves, lots of times. But my family were very like, you're crazy, you're gonna die, all this stuff. And it's like, I'm going to London. It's like, it's very safe there. In fact, more civilized than it is here. So again, in my mind, I think this trip was like, oh, here's how I can find happiness, right? I'll go on this trip. So the trip was amazing, life-changing, very emotional, because again, I actually got a tattoo of the Japanese kanji symbol for searching when I was on the trip. I got that in London. And again, just when you're in so much pain, you're so open, like, give me the answer. I'm looking for it. I want it. If can somebody, I'm open to hearing it, So that trip is a whole story unto itself. I made some amazing friends and did some amazing things, and I stayed for 2.5 months. And memories to last the rest of my life. But I came back, and first I came back to my hometown, and I was like, this place seems especially small now. Now that I've spent time in these major European metropolises, and been around all different kinds of people from everywhere in the world. So I came back, and I was living in this little shitty apartment, working for a guy with zero integrity. And so I did start getting online, because now I'm like, oh wow, I really have a bigger view of the world. And so I want to interact with other people other than who's just here. And so I did a lot of that. In fact, I think one person who I had connected with online before I went to Europe, I ended up meeting, and now he's, even though I hardly ever see him, I consider him one of my best friends. He lives in London. And so again, I was like, I'm still searching, because I'm still unhappy, and I still feel like I'm stuck in a rut, and I still feel like my real talents aren't being used. I'm not living up to my full potential. And so again, just looking for it out there. Where is that happiness? What bush is it hiding behind? So I was on a website. Okay, I'm just going to say it. Hot or Not. I don't know if any of you remember that. It was ridiculous. It was just a vanity website so people would say you're pretty, right? And guys were on it too. But I forget, you could like connect with people, and I ended up connecting with this one person who was in Florida. And he was very intense and serious, very serious. And he seemed very interested in me. I don't know why. There was nothing like special about me compared to the other people on this website. But perhaps he recognized that I was in a vulnerable state and kind of naive, you know, and looking for something. And so we started contacting each other a lot. Like, there was video chat back then. And yeah, he just seemed like he had answers. And so he starts telling me about his life and sending me photos, and you know, it kind of felt like we were forming, you know, that we were like, I don't know, getting closer or whatever. And so I decided to go down and visit him. And I don't know, we got along really well, and he just seemed like really in charge, you know, and like into me. And I liked that because I didn't meet a lot of guys like that, you know. So I went back to Vermont, and I'm like, why do I live here? You know, like, why do I live here when I could live down there? It's beautiful. So of course he took me on the whole tour of the Gulf of Mexico and palm trees and all that stuff. And I was like, this is great. Why do I live here? So I'm like, I'm going to move down there. You know, there's nothing really holding me here. So I couldn't tell whether, I mean, I assumed he wanted that. We were like almost in a relationship. So I looked at an apartment down there, and maybe I was gonna, I don't remember exactly how it all happened. I probably have it written down somewhere, but I was gonna get an apartment. I had an appointment to go see one, but it ended up being kind of a dump. It was like really small. And so it must have been after I brought my stuff down. So I just was going to stay with him until I found a place. And of course, then I never did, but it wasn't because I didn't. It was because eventually, you know, this person really talked themselves up, okay? They said that they had a very glamorous profession, even though I saw no indication of that when I was there. And had a whole story about their life and all of these impressive sounding things that they did. But I didn't have any proof of that really. And so eventually the person's story got down to I had everything and then I lost it, but I can get it again kind of thing. And I realized that they didn't have any income. And so I started paying the bills. And I was living there, so I could see paying half of them, but I ended up paying all of them because the person would be crying, saying that, you know, they haven't been able to get back on their feet yet. But then sort of the lies started to really add up, and the person was a narcissist. If you're a woman, you may have dated one. And this guy was really delusional, though. I think he believed a lot of the things about himself. And I got caught up in the lies and the lying, and it started to feel really icky. But it was also like a very crazy situation where you start to feel crazy. Like, it was very unhealthy for me. And, there was more to it than that, but it started to be really, really unhealthy for me. And I felt trapped. And in the meantime, so I had moved down there and I was collecting unemployment, and it was going to run out eventually. And I had started playing with building websites. Actually, when I went to Europe, I used Yahoo GeoCities to build, one of the earliest blogs. I just built my own little blog. It wasn't even a real blog format. I just created pages for every, week or month or day or whatever that I was in Europe. So my family would know I was still alive, because I didn't have a cell phone there. I was using internet cafes. So I would just log into Yahoo GeoCities and, build this journal. So this guy was also trying to get me to build stuff for him. Okay. So, but I didn't have any income. So then I started marketing myself as a web developer and did start making more money, but it didn't matter how much money I made, because now I was paying all his bills. And then somehow he talked me into buying him a car. And so I did that. That was not smart. So I was making very poor decisions. I was so caught up in someone who felt strong, because I had not had a strong male presence in my life, who really was I don't know how else to say it, just kind of in charge. I felt like I had already had a lot of responsibility in my life, and so I was like, oh cool, someone else is in charge. But in the end, he wasn't really in charge at all. So I made a lot of poor decisions, very poor financial decisions, but I felt trapped financially as well. And so, because I couldn't get ahead enough to move out. And so I did end up borrowing $2,000 from my father at one point, but then I didn't end up using it to move out. So I was there for a year and a half. And again, at one point it felt like we were together in this kind of, not deception, but we were going to get ahead and no one had to know where we were really at. But then eventually it was just I'm done paying all of your bills. And, I ended up selling the car that I had bought for him. And I was like, this feels crazy. I need to get out of here. And so eventually, after a year and a half, I was able to get out. And I just had all my friends show up one day and just move everything. And I rented an apartment that I really wasn't sure I'd be able to afford. But I was like, I have to get out of here. So once I was finally out, I had a chance to process all of the craziness. And because eventually in my story, I get to where I'm 30, and I end up in a relationship that's very crazy with someone who is crazy. And I really felt very used in that relationship in many ways. And I was really angry afterwards. I was very angry at that person. And I was also angry at myself because I was with that person. Like, why would you do, why would you be with that person? So I used to wish bad things for the person, but only like I wished that someone would see through his lies or his delusions and he would like end up broke living in someone's basement, That's about the extent of, what I wished on him. Like maybe there would be an article where all of his lies are debunked or whatever. So occasionally I would, more frequently at the beginning, I would search for his name online and just be like, this guy is going to be exposed, whatever, whatever. And eventually, I healed from that and would check much less frequently. But something the other day, just, I don't know, I don't even know why. I have no idea. I just was on Instagram and I was like, I just typed his name in. And I was very shocked, and yet not shocked also, to find that he was very physically unhealthy. He's probably one of those people who thinks he's invincible and he doesn't have to take care of himself and it'll all be fine. Like, I'm not a normal mortal. I don't have to, take care of myself or whatever. I'm invincible. And turns out he's not invincible. And his body is really breaking down from type 2 diabetes, which is, I think that's pretty much what has been causing it all. But he is losing limbs, and I have come so far since then, and I have so much empathy and compassion that, like, I felt bad. Like, I would never wish that kind of thing on anyone. And so I was a little horrified, really. Again, it didn't surprise me that he would be the kind of person who wouldn't take care of himself. But if that's karma, like, it went way beyond anything I would have wished for, I was like, that's too much, So, I had really mixed feelings about it. Just like, I don't think I'm, maybe a different version of me would have been happy about this. But even then, like, I feel like I should feel good about this or something, but I don't. I feel horrible. Like, it's horrifying. So it was just a really interesting set of feelings to process. Like, yeah, it took me, I mean, I still think about it. Like, he posted some really sort of horrifying photos, which I was also surprised at. Maybe that was some sort of a plea for sympathy, but it was the juxtaposition of who he thinks he is, represented by some of the photos on his Instagram feed, and who he really is, were just, it was kind of like listening to the band play while the Titanic sank. Just that kind of weird juxtaposition. Just, yeah. So that was really disturbing, and a lot to process. So that, last week was it was like 2 weeks ago now, but I got COVID, and then someone hacked my debit card. I still don't have my new debit card. So, like, some of my automatic payments are bouncing. Then I saw that the Instagram feed of my ex from 20 years ago, and it was just a weird time. And then last week, I was just kind of tired and getting over COVID. I couldn't see anybody for a while, and now I can, so that's great. But just a lot of stuff, and so I felt really distracted, and that's why I didn't even bother doing the newsletter. So just like a lot of stuff, none of it horribly bad, but I definitely feel like I need to rethink where my energy is focused right now. And if I could finish up the projects that I have going and make sure I have enough monthly income from my contract clients, then I'd like to maybe focus on writing a book. Actually, a friend of mine had a good idea to write maybe a little short, sweet book that has to do with hugs to go along with my campaign, which I think is a really cool idea. But I really need a lot of headspace to think about something like that. So I need to clear some things off my plate. You know, so this trolley thing's been really distracting, even though it's supposed to be really fun. So it's just been a lot of mental energy that I've been using on it that I could have been using on other things. So winning it was like, you know, it's like that good luck, bad luck. Is this good luck or is this bad luck? I still don't know. So, yeah, so I think I'm going to keep this short. And like I said, I might put in some of the stuff that I talked about like last week when I had COVID. Because I was going to do a video last week, but then I just felt so spacey, like I couldn't concentrate on the story I was telling. And I still feel a little distracted right now. I'm like, I don't want to go into a huge long narrative. So I think what I'm going to do is I actually bookmarked some passages in this little book this time. So I will read them to you. And then you'll either see like a 20-minute video or a longer video with other stuff. And if I don't post the other stuff with this video, I will do it the following week. Okay, take these off. Immeasurable minds. Loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity are described as unlimited states of mind because they continue to grow and they cannot be measured. The more you practice, the more you see your love growing and growing until there is no limit. The more you practice compassion, the more it grows. The more you cultivate joy, the more joy you will feel and be able to share. The more you understand, the more you love. The more you love, the more you understand. They are two sides of one reality. The mind of love and the mind of understanding are the same. I have to remember which one on this page that I picked. I'll do this one. Natural happiness. If you walk with true awareness of every step without having a goal to get anywhere, happiness will arise naturally. You don't need to look for happiness. When we're in touch with the wonders of life, we become aware of the many conditions of happiness that are already there, and naturally we feel happy. The beauty around us brings us back to the present moment so we can let go of the planning and worries that preoccupy us. When you look at the person you love, if he is absorbed in anxiety, you can help him get out. Darling, do you see the sun? Do you see the signs that spring is coming? This is mindfulness. We become aware of what is happening now, and we are in touch with the conditions of happiness that are there inside us and all around us. Whew. Oh. Okay, I hope I can get through this. I seem to be coughing a little bit. hugging meditation. When we hug, our hearts connect and we know that we are not separate beings. Hugging with mindfulness and concentration can bring reconciliation, healing, understanding, and much happiness. The practice of mindful hugging has helped so many people to reconcile with each other. Fathers and sons, mothers and daughters, friends, and so many others. You may practice hugging meditation with a friend, your daughter, your father, your partner, or even with a tree. Hugging is a deep practice. You need to be totally present to do it correctly. When I drink a glass of water, I invest 100% of myself in drinking it. You can train yourself to live every moment of your daily life like that. Before hugging, stand facing each other as you follow your breathing and establish your true presence. Then open your arms and hug your loved one. During the first in-breath and out-breath, become aware that you or your beloved are both alive. With the second in-breath and out-breath, think of where you will both be 300 years from now. And with the third in-breath and out-breath, be aware of how precious it is that you are both still alive. When you hug this way, the other person becomes real and alive. You don't need to wait until one of you is ready to depart for a trip. You may hug right now and receive the warmth and stability of your friend in the present moment. Architects need to build airports and railway stations so that there is enough room to practice hugging. When you hug in this way, your hugging will be deeper, and so will your happiness. Well, that was pretty sweet. All right, guys, so send me all your good wishes and prayers so that I can get through this trolley experience and out the other side. And I think this was just a complicating, all this trolley did was complicate everything for me. And I don't think it really helped my project much. I shouldn't say that. Some people bought hugs. The reason it's hard to think about canceling it is some people bought hugs just to go on the trolley ride. So I have to be sensitive to that and figure out what I'm going to do. But by the time you hear from me next, you'll know whether it happened or not, and you'll see photos and videos if it did. So I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Get out and hug someone because hugging is good for you. Love you guys.